Hey, I'm Carlos Villa from the National Magnet Lab, and this is the ElectroMagnet's outreach box. So let's open this up and see what's inside. Alright, first thing you're going to see in here are these copper plates, and these are actually bitter plates. This is what we use inside of our resistive magnets here at the Magnet Lab. So when we're talking about the magnets that the kids make, this is what we actually make ours out of here at the Magnet Lab. This is called a Florida bitter plate. It's got the elongated openings here in the on the actual plate, as opposed to the round holes, which is a traditional bitter plate. So that's what this is. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a second. Also in here, you've got a pair of permanent magnets. So you've got a permanent magnet here. If you look very carefully, you'll see that there's a notch on this end. This is the north pole of the magnet. The south pole has no notch on it on either side. So the north pole is here. Like I said, you're going to have two of these. You've also got a series of rods here. You've got a aluminum, an iron, actually two iron rods here, and there's also going to be some wooden rods in here, and these are extra parts for the outreach materials that are inside here. You have some paper clips here, and you have an extra wire as well. On the second level, you've got some alligator clips that might be useful depending on what you're working with. You have some extra batteries in here. You've got wire clippers and wire cutters for working with the wires in the outreach materials that you'll see. You do have a roll of extra wire here, which is useful. You've got another bitter plate. You'll see that this one's a different size. We'll talk about that also in a second. And you've also got this Faraday Flashlight. I'm going to show you this Faraday Flashlight after I show you the main box. So I'm going to pull this off to the side again. And here we have the main box. Now these are the boxes that the kids are going to use when they're actually working on their outreach, the electromagnet activity. So when you reach in here, you're going to see that there's a number of them. All these are identical, and this is what you're looking for when you open this up. You've got a battery and a battery holder. You've got your wire. You've got a box of paper clips here. You've got a compass, and you have your three rods. Now you'll see that the aluminum one is here, the shiny one. You've got a iron rod, that's this one on the outside, and the central one is actually a wooden rod. Now the wooden rod is there purely to deceive the students, same with the aluminum. But a lot of kids, knowing that there's such a tree as an ironwood tree, are sometimes going to want to use the wooden rod. That's why we include it in the kit. The aluminum rod looks shiny, is a metal, but it is not magnetic, so the aluminum rod also will not work. It's the iron rod that is going to work. And for the kids to make their electromagnets, what they're going to actually do is take that wire and wrap it into a coil around the piece of iron. Now, the more they wrap it, the better it's going to be. Also, the closer the coils are, the better the magnet's going to be. So you've got something like this that goes the entire length of the magnet. This is what you want for the kids to have the best working electromagnet. Now, after they finish coiling, the exposed end of the wire is going to go into the end of the battery holder, like so, and that's going to keep it in place. Let me do that a little bit better. There you go, and you can see that will hold it in place. You're going to do the same on the other side, and then you'll have a working electromagnet that will pick up paper clips on either end of the magnet. One cool thing is that the closer the end is to the wire, that's where the stronger part of the magnet's going to be. Now, neatness does matter when the kids are making their electromagnets. So you've got this done really nicely. That's going to work better than some kids are just going to do it blindly and quickly like this. These are two different strengths here. The neatness will make the magnet stronger because it is closer to the core, as opposed to this where it's being wrapped over each other and it's getting further apart from the actual core. Now, that electromagnet that we've got there is very similar to the electromagnets we run at the Magnet Lab. The idea and the principle of the science is exactly the same. Wherever you have electricity, you have magnetism. And since this wire is carrying electricity, it has magnetism around it. And as we coil it around the wire, is going to carry electricity, create a magnetic field, and then the very center of this is going to be where the strongest part of the magnetic field is. That's why the iron core goes into the middle. That's also why on an MRI you go inside it, because this is where the magnetic field is going to be. Now, comparing your electromagnet to the magnets here at the lab, you can see that the three main most important parts are exactly the same. You have a copper wire, and the copper wire for the outreach box you've seen. The copper wire we use at the magnet lab is these bitter plates. And again, these bitter plates I mentioned earlier, this is what we use on our magnets instead of the wire. The battery is what the kids use to provide the voltage and the electricity. We use the city power plant here at the magnet lab. And of course the iron core is the only one that's a little bit different, because the iron core is what becomes magnetized in the electromagnet, but in our magnets the iron core part is actually empty, because that's where our experimental sample will be. Whatever it is that we're experimenting on is going to go inside that metal core. Here's the Faraday flashlight. Now if you remember the electromagnet, you're using electricity to create magnetism. Now this Faraday flashlight actually comes apart, and that's why I like it so much, because when you take it apart you can actually focus on the mechanism that actually allows this to work. And what we have here is we've got a magnet and again a coil of wires. Now here's where it's actually backwards from what we do. With the electromagnet we're using the electricity to create magnetism. Here we're actually using magnetism to create electricity. So as this magnet passes through that coil, it's actually going to create a little bit of voltage and create just a little bit of electricity. So if I shake this, you're going to see that that light is turning on every time the magnet passes through the coil. Now if it goes slowly, you don't see it as much. But the faster it passes through, the more voltage it creates and the brighter that light is. So that's your outreach materials for the electromagnets outreach. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any other questions, please go ahead and email me. Thank you.